What's up, everybody? Welcome to the YouTube Hangout. Super excited to be back here with my friend who's already clapping it up, Mr. Lewis Howes. If you guys don't know Lewis, he's got one of my favorite YouTube channels called School of Greatness, has an amazing podcast. I don't listen to the podcast. I'm a YouTube consumer, but I watch all his stuff. And he's got 2 books out. One super recent one that we're going to be talking about today called The Mask of Masculinity. Lewis, welcome back, man.
Thanks, man. I'll put it here just for the short, quick promo. Good to be back, man. I appreciate it. And congratulations on 1 million subscribers. That's a huge accomplishment. So I'm excited to get there. Maybe in 10 years, I'll reach your level.
No, you're good. You're growing fast, man. I love you. Got the consistent content going up too. You guys, Let's give Lewis some love. Go subscribe to his channel. A lot of great content. Tell us about the book though. Like what for people who I know you've been talking about it forever on your channel. You've been writing the book. You've been asking interview questions from people coming on. Now it's out. Like, what's the premise though for people who aren't super familiar with your content?
A book is no joke, man. It's a lot of work. I know you're working on one and you have one. But so it's been a journey, and the premise is essentially there's a lot of pain and suffering in the world. When we look at the world today, in the last 6 months alone, we see a number of things that are happening in the media, from racial marches in Charlottesville, from bombings to all these different venues all over the world, to now killings in churches, which is crazy, shootings in Vegas, to a ton of sexual abuse and sexual harassment that's been coming out from a lot of these men, to domestic violence, to a lot of suicides, addictions, all these challenges. And the common denominator with everything we're hearing about in the media right now is it's men who are involved in these harmful acts. And I wanted to dive deeper into understanding why. Why are men so conditioned to not respond from love? Or why are men not conditioned to be vulnerable or open up or to share their feelings in certain ways? And why have men been conditioned to not share their feelings or to not communicate how they feel? And what are the negative effects that happen when human beings in general don't express how they feel in healthy forms? It starts to manifest into cancer, disease, addiction, lashing out in other harmful ways. And at the end of the day, we're all trying to fit in. We're all trying to belong. We're all trying to be accepted, to be loved. And when we don't feel that, we put on masks to try to fit in. We put on a persona to try to get other people to like us or to accept us in the group. And those masks serve us on a surface level by getting us results, getting us awards, getting us accomplishments, getting us the girlfriend, the guy friend, getting us the whatever. But underneath it, when we are constantly being someone who we're not, we're constantly putting on something that's false. We're always resenting ourselves underneath that, and it's never enough. And so I just wanted to kind of unpack it with research, with psychologists, and really understand why. And then how can we address it once we are aware of the different things that we do as men, and what are some tools that can help us move forward? That's what it is.
So the first thing that comes to mind is, how do we even, I think a lot of times we do it subconsciously. You don't even notice you're doing it, and you don't want to admit it. So before you can fix the problem, how do you even identify that you're doing this habitually?
Challenging. Very challenging, because I just thought like, well, this is just who I am. So don't try to like give me feedback on anything, or don't try to do this. I think it's, you've got to be willing to be aware. You've got to be willing to look within. And usually that happens when something drastic happens in your life, when you go through a divorce, a breakup, you get injured, you have a near-death experience, someone in your life has a near-death experience or passes away. You're addicted to things and you go to rehab. Usually there's you get fired from your job. These moments where we start to say, okay, something is not working. I'm in a breakdown. What do I need to reevaluate? What's not working? How can I look within and change? Maybe you get really sick, you become overweight and you get sick and you have to go to the hospital. You say, okay, something's off with my health. Let me check within myself. Why am I addicted to eating? Why did I not take care of myself? Why did I not do these things? So unfortunately, usually a lot of the time, it's hard to see unless something drastic happens. And that's a challenge because for many years, I was getting big results in sports, big results in business. And so when people would give me feedback, I was like, don't give me feedback. I'm getting bigger results than you. So what can you teach me? I was leading with this mask and this ego. And I was like, don't try to change me. What I'm doing is working. So why would I ever change when I'm making the money and getting these results and getting these accomplishments? So why change? So it's very challenging, I think, to look within and just ask yourself these questions when things seem to be going right on the outside. But for me, I was always suffering in my inner world. I think we live in two worlds, the outer world and the inner world. And my inner world was suffering, where everyone else in the outer world was like, man, you're killing it, Lewis. Like, you're doing so many great things. Like, how are you doing this? But they didn't feel and understand my inner world. And I didn't really understand it either, why I was constantly suffering. So it wasn't until I fully was able to unpack a lot of the stuff that I was holding on to, the frustrations from, the sexual abuse that I went through and holding on to that, from frustrations with my parents when I was a kid, frustrations with like bullying that I went through, all the things that I went through. And that is normal for a lot of kids. A lot of things I went through, a lot of other kids have been through as well. So it's not like I had some different experiences that were so much more tragic than people, but they affected me in a way where I didn't know how to express them. I didn't know how to move through it. I didn't know how to communicate. And there weren't really tools available for me as a kid to be like, oh, when you're feeling this way, here's what you do. When someone sexually abused you, here's the number to call, or here's the group of people to talk to. You don't know what to do at 5, 7, 10, 13. You're just trying to fit in. You're just trying to like have a few friends like you and not get rejected by the girl that you like and whatever, and make the sports team. And so that conditioning over years and years. And then as men in society in general, I don't want to say all men, but in general, my experience, it's not acceptable to express how you feel, especially in sports growing up in America. If I was ever sensitive or showed a vulnerability or pain in any way, a coach, a teammate would be like, don't be a little girl. Don't be this. Don't be that. Don't be a wuss. Toughen up. Let's go. Be a man. Don't show weakness. And so when you are rewarded for playing through the pain and great job, way to be tough and not like show emotion. And when you are not rewarded for opening up and being vulnerable and expressing yourself, then you start to put on those masks and say, okay, well, again, I want to fit in. I want to be accepted. So I want people to like me and I want to do the things that are get me the rewards.
So what led to that shift for you? Like, why now? What changed? Like, you had these experiences growing up. And for those of you guys who don't know, Lewis was on the fast track to be a professional athlete and then had a major injury and depression and sleeping on his sister's couch. And, like, why now is the time? What happened that made you go deep to figure this out?
Yeah. 4 years ago, I was starting to get into like just a lot more arguments with people, with my girlfriend and I at the time were going through like a lot of ups and downs. And I wasn't necessarily arguing with her because I didn't have the emotional courage to really express how I truly felt with her. So I just kind of let her take advantage of me or just like say what she wanted. And I was just like, okay, I'll do whatever you need. But I would take that aggression out into the real world. So I'd go play sports and then I'd get aggressive with like guys in the sports on a basketball court because that's what I knew. It's like, okay, take all my energy and aggression out on the sports playing field because that's a safe space for guys to be guys and to be rough and to be whatever and to express ourselves. And I started to get more and more reactive to people when they would say things to me or talk trash or like elbow me a weird way. It was like I was so quick to defend myself because I felt like everyone was out to get me. Everyone was attacking me. My girlfriend, these people here, people in business. I just felt like everyone was trying to attack me. And I was like, why? Why are people constantly attacking me? I'm just trying to be a good person and like make people happy. And it was happening with my business partner as well. I was reactive to him. Whenever I felt attacked by him, I was reactive. And I got in a really bad fight in a basketball court. One guy hit me. He headbutted me. And so I said, okay, that gives me the justification to hit him back and to kind of go all out. And I got in a fight with this guy who hit me. And justified it by saying I was defending myself, which I probably could have just walked away, but I think it's hard when you get hit in the face to just walk away. And that's how I justified it. And after that fight, I was just like, why am I getting in this fight? Like, why do I allow myself to even react in any way when someone says something to me? I'm like, why do I give that person power over me to say, oh, I'm so hurt by your words that I'm going to put my attention on you and react in a way of fighting you? And that's when everything started to like wake up for me. I was like, okay, things are not working. This experience of being in this fight, this constant like up and down with my girlfriend relationship, this business partnership was like a lot of tension. I was just like, okay, the fight was kind of like the breakdown that I needed to be like, what's going on? How can I solve whatever is happening? And so I started to reach out to friends who said, you know, you should talk to this therapist friend of mine, check out this coach, you should check out this workshop. And I just did it all. I was like, okay, I'll talk to whoever. And I did therapy sessions, I did coaching sessions, I went to different workshops. And in one of the workshops I went to, it really created a space and an experience for me to address all the things that I was holding on to from my past that had hurt me, and to talk about them in a safe space for the first time. And it allowed me to open up and express all the things I was frustrated by or hurt by or holding on to from people that had done things to me or whatever in the past. And it allowed me to open up for the first time about being sexually abused after 25 years of no one knowing, because I was so ashamed of it. And all that made me realize, wow, once I start talking about these things and expressing these things, I felt a sense of freedom, a sense of peace that I'd never felt in my life. And the more I started talking about the sexual abuse I've been through, other men came to me and said, thank you for sharing and opening up. I've been married for 20 years. My wife doesn't know that this happened to me as a kid. I've never been able to tell anyone. Like, men just started emailing me and saying, you're my hero. Thank you for opening up and giving me permission to start talking about it with my friends and family. And I was like, wow, really? Like, the thing I'm most afraid of people knowing about me gave them actually the most freedom in their life when we had that conversation. And it gave me a sense of peace, and it gave me a sense of like forgiveness and letting go that I'd never had before. I was just like, if all men and all human beings, but I think men in general who traditionally aren't as open to expressing themselves, were able to let go of the things that make them hurt, sad, frustrated, angry, or whatever it may be, and can communicate them in healthier forms, then I don't think all this stuff would be happening that we're seeing in the media. And I feel like humanity would be elevated on a higher level.
That's an awesome story, man. Thank you for sharing it and putting it out in the words. I
Sure.
wonder, like, how much of that is still an ongoing journey? Like, have you solved it? Like, if that guy
Every day.
punched you, if he punched you in the face, how would you react now?
It's a great question. I think anytime I feel like if someone's going to physically harm me, I would try to just more not put myself in that situation this time. So if someone was yapping at me or something, I would just be like, okay, I'm walking away. But if someone actually hit me, I don't know if I'm like that, risen to the mountaintops to be like, I'm going to turn the other cheek and just like pummel me to death. I will defend myself if someone hits me. But I think I'm much more wiser to diffuse situations and to use my emotional intelligence to be like, hey, let's come to a resolution of peace here, and not me jump back at you and you come to me and then us escalate and me, it's like, so I think I've learned to have tools of not reacting when things like that happen. And listen, I'm still not perfect. I still react to people when I feel attacked. There's someone who's been attacking me lately over email that I'm like, I feel like there's no reason with this person. And I've just said, okay, I'm at peace with not having a resolution. And, you having this opinion about me, and okay, have a good time. I wish you best. So I think it's challenging because it's an ongoing journey. And even though I'm aware of it, I still make mistakes. I still have challenges. I still have things I'm working through, but I'm able to breathe into it, to meditate, to think about it later, reflect on it, and say, okay, how can I do things better the next time? If this comes up again, how can I come from a different place and not react to people, but come from a place of peace or love or just letting it go?
Right. So I know there's a number of different strategies in the book and how to deal with it. What do you think has been either the most effective for you or just the most widely resonated with the audience as here's a good strategy for the next guy who's yapping at you on the basketball field or like court or like giving you those emails?
Well, here's the thing. I think the best strategy is before anything happens to practice in the beginning of the day, running through different events that could happen that day.
Huh.
So I am, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of people that you've done your videos with on YouTube about the power of visualization and mindset. I'm sure there's a lot of the videos you have are about that, or people talking about that. I am all for the power of visualizing what you want and manifesting what you want. But I also learned this from sports, to visualize when everything goes wrong, how do you respond?
Huh.
A lot of people don't do this, but I learned this in football. Well, what if this happens and it's muddy and things slip and I drop the ball and I'm slipping? And what if someone tackles me and I'm injured and this? How am I going to respond when everything hits the fan? And so in the mornings, I prepare myself. I'll meditate and visualize and create and go through my process of what I want to create that day. But then I also say, okay, life isn't always perfect and it doesn't always come the exact way I visualize it. I wish it did, but sometimes there's detours. So I'll say, okay, I'm going to a meeting today and I have to get in my car or I have to get in an Uber. And LA traffic is always an interesting experience. So if someone cuts me off, if someone nudges me, if someone flips me off, if someone does this, am I going to be reactive? Am I going to go up next to them in my car and flip them off back? Or am I going to breathe, smile, and turn my music up and focus on my vision? So I go through these experiences. What if someone tweets me a nasty tweet today, or attacks me, or leaves me a 1-star review and doesn't leave their name because they're a coward? How do I want to feel? How do I want to respond? Do I defend myself for 3 hours trying to talk about all the things that they're wrong about and make myself right? Or do I say, thank you for the feedback and have a great day? And
so do you pick like the things that have happened that you've known you've kind of let yourself down maybe a little bit on? Like you get angry with tweets, you get angry with 1-star reviews. Like, okay, I know this has happened before. I'm mentally preparing myself for the next time. Is that how you pick the ones to do?
Yeah, I think once we understand our masks, then we understand our triggers and we understand what triggers us. So some things may not trigger me the way other things will. And I know from my past experience that, I always felt like people were bullying me, picking on me, making fun of me. And, I was sexually abused. So I feel this sense of like people are trying to attack me. And that's my awareness. It was like, okay, I'm aware that this is my tendency. So I just need to be aware that it's not about me. It's about them. When someone's attacking someone else, it's never about that person. It's always about the person attacking, what they're in pain with, what they're afraid of, what they're not doing, things like that. So it's a deeper level of awareness that is hard sometimes when you're so conditioned to be a different way, to defend yourself. And it's just like a constant reminder, and awareness that these are these triggers.
Yeah, that's interesting. So we have like a daily gratitude practice, and I'm wondering and maybe adjusting it to also include like, where did I maybe let myself down and how can I
I think, and at the end of the night, I do daily gratitude as well, as you know. And at the end of the night, I talk about 3 things I'm most grateful for with my girlfriend, and we go back and forth. And then personally, I say, where did I let myself down today? On a scale of 1 to 10, did I live up to the standards that I wanted to from these experiences? Or did I stoop down to a level that I know wasn't effective and is beneath me and whatever? So scale of 1 to 10, how did I show up today? And okay, I was a 6 today. I was a 3 today. Okay, what can I do tomorrow to be an 8, 9, or 10? And again, just being mindful every morning, every night, like just being mindful of how we show up. It's easier said than done when you feel like everything's against you and nothing's going right in your life and you're going through a breakup and you're struggling with something. It's like a lot easier said than done. But it's helpful.
I like it. Well, I'm gonna test it tonight. We'll try the Lewis House.
Let me know what you think.
See how it goes. We got a question from the live chat. Lily is writing, Lewis, what can educators and parents do to make young boys or men feel safe so they don't develop masks from a young age?
It's a great question, because a lot of moms are telling me that they're reading this to understand their sons, of why they might be disconnected, why they don't look them in the eyes, why they're not sharing things. And I think constantly encouraging a safe space to talk with your son, to allow him to open up. Maybe he doesn't feel safe to open up in front of the whole family at the dinner table, and maybe he'll only feel safe to open up with you when it's in private. So really creating that safe space and letting him know that it's okay to cry if he wants to cry around you, or it's okay to talk about these things. And I think for moms and parents to get their sons to fully open up, and it doesn't matter if you're a mom to a son or husband to a wife, I think to get anyone to open up, we get to lead with things that are vulnerable from our experiences as well. So as a mom, saying, when I was a kid, I was really insecure about, what to do when guys were attracted to me, or what to do when I was hitting puberty. And I had these weird insecurities and challenges and didn't have anyone to talk to. And I just want to let you know that I'm here to listen and have zero judgment and support you however I can as your mom. And if you don't feel comfortable with me, then you should talk to your dad or someone, but to encourage that. And if they are resistant, continue to lead with vulnerability and encouragement, and create a context and container for a safe space for them, because it may not happen in the first couple of times. It may take 6 months. And then one day they finally say, oh, you know what? I can trust my mom, and I'm going to open up. And when they need to, they'll come to you.
How do you see this fit into your bigger mission for what you're trying to do? I know when you've had guests on, it's been a talking point for some people who've also had abuse growing up. A number of people have come out and said that they were sexually abused, and it leads to great conversation. Is it that if it makes sense to bring it up in the conversations with the hosts that you're bringing on? Do you want to get involved with charities or create your own, or like how do you see your actions around this cause building over the next few years?
I just want to bring awareness to it, because 1 in 6 men have been sexually abused, 1 in 4 women, that's been recorded. So it's a lot of people, and there's probably more. And I feel like it's just not talked about enough for those that have dealt with it. And there's a lot of shame and guilt and insecurity that leads to toxicity in other ways, addictions, poor communication in relationships, things like that. So I just want to be one voice of many voices that are talking about it, and be an example as a white male athlete guy talking about it, because there's not many in my stereotype and characteristics who are opening up. And I want to help the other men who could potentially relate to me to say, you know what, it's okay for me to talk about this with a therapist, or it's okay to talk about this with my best friend or my family. I'm not saying they need to open up and talk about it to everyone, but I know that there's a lot of pain in the world, and my mission is to help people live their best life, live their dreams, have good relationships, be healthy and fulfilled. And if we're suffering because of this one issue or any issue, then we just get to address it and be aware of it and try to improve.
So for people watching, if they're one of the 6 or one of the 4, and they're listening to this, and maybe they pick up the book and they read it and they get they build up the courage to say something, what do you recommend is their first best step to have a conversation? What should they do?
Find, if you're not comfortable talking to a friend or family member, find a therapist or a specialist who has confidentiality, so that whatever you say, or a priest or someone in the church or wherever you believe in, go to someone where there's confidentiality so you can talk about it. The second thing is, when I was finally going to tell my family members one by one, I had asked a lot of different people, like these therapists and coaches that I was talking to. I was like, I don't know how to do this. I'm terrified they're not going to accept me. I'm terrified they're going to judge me, whatever. I was just terrified. And one person, one of the therapists I talked to said, ask them this question before you tell them. And the question was, is there anything I could ever say or do that could make you not love me?
Hmm.
Is there anything you could ever say or do that could make you not love me? And then based on their reaction and response, you can either say it afterwards or not. And all of my family members said, absolutely not. There's nothing that you could ever say or do that would make me not love you. So to hear them say that, I think that was my biggest fear. Like maybe they won't love me or accept me if they knew this about me, if they knew what these things happened to me. And once they said, no, there's nothing you can ever say or do that make us not love you, I said, okay, I feel safe to talk about it. And it was still scary, but the thing is, it brought us so much closer together, because when I opened up, then they opened up about other stuff that happened to them. Not sexual abuse, but just other things that they were going through emotionally or physically at the time. And I felt like it brought us closer. You know, when one person opens up in a vulnerable way, usually it tends to create an opening for the other person based on the context and container. It doesn't always happen. Sometimes people feel really uncomfortable, but that's why I think it's like setting it up first with that question is a powerful thing.
I mean, I can relate to that. I didn't have any abuse growing up, but when I was going to get divorced with my first wife, I went and told my parents and was scared about that. And they opened up and told me about the problems they had in their relationship, which I never saw. It was always like perfect mom and dad. Didn't realize they had problems, right? So yeah, I can relate to that. I mean, what would you tell the person though who their parents may not be supportive and they know like they might get kicked out of the house or they might be disowned and like you're out of the family? Then what? Do it.
Yeah, I think it's really challenging. I mean, this is like a lot of my gay friends talk to me about this. They're like, I knew that I needed to tell someone that I was gay or homosexual, but I was terrified because I knew how strict my parents are about this topic or the church or the religion or whatever. And so do I, just wear a mask my whole life and not let them know? Or do I live my truth and hope they still accept me, but maybe they'll kick me out of the house and like move me away from the family? I think that's just like, I don't know if there's a good answer. I don't know if I have the right answer for that, because I think every situation is unique. And, it's really challenging because we don't want to be separated from our family. We don't want our family to hate us or to not accept us. So it's terrifying. So I think it's really asking those questions and setting it up and at least talking about it with a therapist or someone in a safe context where you can release it and have healthy conversations around it. And maybe there will be a time and a place where you feel the courage to tell your parents or family members. And you can't live, in my opinion, we can't live our lives like worried about what everyone thinks about us, even our family. And unfortunately, sometimes family is the ones that hold us back the most. Luckily, my family has never been that way, but sometimes that's the case. I hear from other people, and that's a really scary thing.
Well, I asked too because we've got Christmas coming up. Everybody's going home, big families getting together, and a lot of people feel like they have to put their mask on. They're going to go home and see mom and dad and brother and sister, and they have to act a certain way. For someone like that who may be living in a different state, and once a year they get together for family and they feel they have to be a fake person just once a year when they come over for Christmas, like weighing the cost benefit of, do I do it? It's just once a year.
I think if you're only there once a year, then do it. I think, listen, if it's holding you back in any way, if you're wearing this weight on your shoulders or on your chest by not talking about something, whether your parents or whoever, I think it's important to talk about it then, period. Because otherwise you're living with tightness in your life. And as you know, in order to achieve our dreams or to get to where we want to be, the only way to be a high performer in life is to be in flow. In salsa, if you're tight the whole time, you're going to look and feel weird and your partner is going to be disconnected to you. It's when you've totally lost the awareness of anyone, of how you look or what's happening, where you're fully in flow, present and connected. And that's something to think about. There's a price to everything we do, and there's also the prices we pay, and there's big rewards to everything we do. So it's just being mindful of the life we want to live and making those decisions.
Just a quick question too about women. So obviously the book is focused on guys, your experience, everything growing up, but women wear masks too. How much of the advice in the book is relevant beyond just like, hey, this is good for my son or my dad or my brother, but like how much can they use for themselves, for women watching?
Well, it's funny, as I was writing this, for men, I was realizing like, wow, like this is the keys to the kingdom for women, to like understand the men in their life on why they might be guarded in this situation, or why they might always tell a joke in this situation, or why they're so driven to make money in this situation. It's going to give you the awareness of your father, your husband, your brother, your sons, of why they react certain ways. But then as I've been getting these emails from women reading it, they're like, wow, I wear a lot of these masks as well. And it's helping me to understand, how to just be more of myself as well. I think women might wear different masks at different times. And, but I think we can all relate to wearing masks and trying to like be somewhere we're not, or trying to say things to fit in. And so a lot of women are finding value as well.
Do we need like an AA for masks? Or is this like a group talk thing that can be worked out, or is this a one-on-one thing?
I think it could be group for sure. Yeah, I think it doesn't matter. It can be one-on-one. It can be group. I just think when we talk about, as I've been going on this book tour, I've been meeting a lot of men and women, and it's usually about 50-50 men and women who are coming. And I'll ask a question. I say, for all the ladies in your room, raise your hand. And for all the women watching right now, I say, raise your hand and type yes if this is you, or if you're a woman. Raise your hand if you meet with your girlfriends once a week, or at least one other girl once a week for lunch or coffee or over the phone, and you talk about your fears, your insecurities, your relationship challenges, your body image challenges, your career challenges, your issues. And 99% of the women say yes. We do this every day, right? They're like, yes, every day we do this. We're getting together, we're talking in groups, we're sharing, we're expressing ourselves. I say, okay, yeah. Now to the men in the room. And again, if you're a woman watching, type yes if you meet with a girlfriend or girlfriends once a week or over the phone and talk about these things. And then I say, okay, for all the men in the room, raise your hands if once a month you get together with one guy or a group of guys and you talk about your insecurities and your fears and your relationship challenges and your career challenges and your body image challenges. 2 hands will show up, right? And I'm like, are you guys in a men's group or like a men's church group where you meet once a month? And they're like, yes. So it's like a scheduled event for men to go to once a month, to be able to like listen to someone talk about this and like have conversation and dialogue. And that's like the safe space to do it. But in general, guys are typically not doing that with other men. When I grew up in high school and I wanted to express myself, or, put my arm around a buddy of mine, just on the side, not even hug, just like put my arm around it, was like, get off me. That's not cool. It's like, what are you, a fag? What are you, a little girl? What are you this? What are you that? What are you, weak? It's like, don't tell me how you're feeling. It's just like the conditioning over time. Maybe we only heard it once from one guy. Maybe we heard it multiple times. Maybe we saw it on TV. Maybe we saw it in politics. Maybe we saw these behaviors in other ways, and we said, oh, I can't do that. Otherwise, there's consequences. So I think there's just this conditioning that it's not okay for men to do that. And I think it causes a lot of pain and heartache inside.
Is it better? So if you're doing a group, is it better if a group full of men are sharing, or is it better to have a mix?
I think it's good for a group, because then you feel safer. You're not just isolated with one other person talking. You can learn from other people. You can hear other people's vulnerabilities or sharing, and then it gives you more permission because it's a bigger group.
Would you do like Summit of Greatness before coming on, and like breakout rooms or groups of 10 people to share their masks? Like, is that?
We'll see. I haven't thought of it that far, but yeah.
Okay, cool. I think AA for masks is interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, like all I'm seeing is yes blowing up in the chat from the people answering your question. Louis, thank you for your time, man. Super appreciate it. For people who want to pick up the book, where are we going? Amazon, Barnes & Noble, everywhere, your website?
Yeah, louishowes.com/mask will take you right to Amazon or Barnes & Noble or wherever. So
Got it. Is there a final message you want to leave people with that kind of sums it all up for you?
I believe our health is the most important thing, and emotional health has massive effects on the physical body and the brain, the heart, the muscles, everything. I've talked to a lot of different doctors who say it doesn't matter how perfect your eating regimen is, your sleeping patterns, your workout schedule. If you're not able to deal with the emotional side of things, you'll still have physical problems. You'll still manifest disease or sickness or illness in the body. And so the emotional side of things is something that we really get to address and think about and figure out a way that we can support our emotions, our heart every single day so we can sleep at night peacefully.
Very cool. Very well said. Well, Lewis, thank you so much for joining in. Guys, go pick up his book. Go check out lewishowes.com. lewishowes.com/mask. Just mask. Super easy.
Yep.
Thank you guys for joining in. Continue to believe, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks.